Good morning, Shepherd of the Sierra Presbyterian Church. My name is Justin Sundberg, and my wife Renee and I and our 4 children, Autumn, Jack, Cassie, and Ethan, who range in ages from 7 to 11, are living in Nicaragua. We're Presbyterian mission co-workers, and we're so thrilled to be your partners in ministry, and we're just so grateful for your financial support. Presbyterian missionaries, we now raise our own support. You've been good at praying for us. We know Mary Prawl keeps us connected to the life of your congregation, your church family, and that is so important. It is hard living in the developing world, in the global south, as it's increasingly called. And so we really do, we're so grateful for those of you, Mary among them, who reach out to us to say hello, to let us know you're praying for us. Well, we would like to tell you a little bit about our work, just very briefly. Hopefully you know a little bit about it, given your history of support and partnership. I'd also like to share a little bit with you about missions work in our denomination, and then even more globally, or I should say, trends in missions efforts, global outreach efforts throughout churches in the United States of all stripes and colors. And then an encouragement to you in your own missional lives. So let's start with a little bit more about Renee and I and our work. Our host partner is called SEPAD, and that's an acronym that's a little bit of a mouthful and a little bit messy and not even very reflective of who we are. But SEPAD is a rural development organization that's entirely Nicaraguan-led. It's been in existence since 1972, so for 43 years. And it is really the shining star among NGOs in this country, both in terms of its longevity, but also in terms of its how well it's respected and how effective it is. And so we feel so fortunate to be a part of their organization, their ministry. We host U.S. church teams and some university groups that come and have visits here, come on short-term missions trips. There are some who have deep partnerships, commitments, relational commitments that are actually formalized and that go back 15 or 20 years. And so we host these groups. We help literally interpret for them, but also more metaphorically as they experience new things in this country that they come to that's unfamiliar in many cases. And it's a real honor and privilege. SEPAD, though, the heart of SEPAD as an organization is one of development work. It's a people building. And they are very much not a U.S.-based organization in that respect. Previously, I'd worked for a really wonderful NGO that also works in Central America, but it has a U.S. hub, and it also has a U.S. vision, I would say, and goals in terms of how ambitious it is. This organization is much more modest in its approach. It hopes that people will be able to stay in their communities and feed their families. And upon hearing that for the first time, when I first heard the executive director kind of share that, it almost took the breath out of me because it seemed so modest in its reach. But the longer that we've been here, we see firsthand the effects of the immigration. We have over 1 million Nicaraguans living in the United States and in Costa Rica. They need to leave to find work. This is a very economically poor country. And those, the monies that are remitted, of course, help families, but then the family unit is disrupted, and that's difficult. And so SEPAD hopes that through our partnership, we work in 5-year cycles. We commit to being in 42 different rural communities for 5-year periods, doing a lot of training. And the hope is that at the end, people will have gained skills to allow them to be organized, to know how to write project proposals, to bring those proposals to local government, municipal governments to lobby for their needs, whether it's potable water or an improved road or a school or electricity for the first time. All these things are par for the course in terms of what these very, very rural communities are needing. And at the end of that, with the ability to do that, then they're no longer in need of our assistance, our training. And then, in fact, they can diversify their crops, they can sell their crops, they can stay in their communities, and there's not a need to emigrate. And they also have an ample diet, a good diet, and sources of income, multiple sources of income. So that's SEPAD in just a word or two. But I love who we are. We really believe that people are created in God's image and able to kind of forge their own futures, able to experiment and to grow and adapt. They need a little support. They need some training, some skills. But largely they need to be transformed in their minds and hearts by the Spirit of God. And so that's why we are grateful for our church partners. We're grateful for you and for your commitment to us. So thank you so much. Well, a word about how missions global outreach has changed over the years. And if you stop even now as I'm saying this, I'll bet you can put your finger on it. Over the last 15 years, give or take 5, we've seen a huge trend in the way missions work has been done. Local churches may still continue to partner with missionaries, people who are living abroad for long periods of time, but more often than not, churches have begun to be missional unto themselves. In other words, they follow some natural interest or inclination in the congregation, someone who has some vision, some connection to some ministry in the world, and then they support that, and it makes sense to a very good degree because it does well up within the congregation, and there's energy, and of course you need that to do anything in a church, right? You have to have a critical mass, you have to have a group consensus. And so that's what has happened. The missions work has become more project-based and more internalized. It's come into the local congregation, and it follows energies and inclinations in the congregation. Whereas previously, teams typically didn't go on short-term missions trips. That was not as common. And if it did happen, then they would often go and come alongside their long-term mission partners. So there are pros and cons to this. The PCUSA as a denomination has, like other mainline denominations, has decreased significantly in recent years. We've gone from 5 million members to 1.7 million members over the last 15 to 20 years, give or take. And as a result, the monies going into the national coffers have decreased, and that was what led to the decision 6 or 8 years ago to begin to ask us to raise our own support. And personally, I love it. I love that we can invite individuals and churches to partner with us, and we can have a closer connection, and we can thank people, I think, more personally and more poignantly. But there is a shadow side for sure. And as we have been wrestling as a denomination with how to continue with Presbyterian World Mission, we have had such a robust history, so well, God has used so powerfully over the last 175 years. How can we not let it shrink? And the answer, we still do not have an answer, but we're thinking hard on it at this very moment even. And one of the things what we've learned from our member churches is that they do appreciate continuity with mission partners, and they have seen that it's challenging in some respects for the congregation to sort of hop from mission project to mission project, or to have so many different things going on, and that's something that Presbyterian World Mission offers. Is a stable presence, a sensitive and thoughtful, trained presence, and strategic. So thank you for standing by PCUSA and Renee and I in our work, and we hope that you'll continue to do that, even as you explore other mission opportunities. Well, let's see. I wish at this point I could ask you a question or let you take a little breather from my sharing, but this venue doesn't really allow that. If I had a little flat Jesus, I could hold it up. I visited your Facebook page and saw that you have a flat Jesus that goes around with some of you at significant places, I guess. And so imagine flat Jesus here, maybe on my shoulder. Well, what else would I like to share with you? I guess just that most of you will not ever live in Nicaragua or anywhere outside of where you live. And you have a quite significant ministry with your coworkers and your family and your neighbors. And I love what Mother Teresa once said to someone who had traveled to Calcutta from the United States, asking if he could live there and be a part of her ministry. And she thanked him, but encouraged him to return home and said, do what's in front of you. And what a powerful message that is, I think, to us, especially when we start thinking about world mission, and it can feel like such a heavy burden, can feel so disconnected, or sometimes we feel like if we're not participating in short-term missions trips, that maybe we're not doing everything that we could do in God's realm-building work. But in fact, really we see scripturally that God calls us to be present where we are, to love our neighbor. And thank you for doing that. I know you do that, and I want to urge you to continue to see that as your primary heartbeat of your lives and your ministries. It's just the people within 10 meters of you. Well, I want to finish by thanking you for the invitation to share these moments. And I'm sorry that it can't be more interactive. Maybe it can. This might be both and. The idea for making this video, I think, initially was also for a backup. I might still be with you, and maybe you'll never even see this. But thank you for your support and your prayers. We're grateful. Have a great rest of your Sunday, especially as you seek to better understand a world mission.